Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Perry, and today we're going to be learning how to set up a part of your clarinet: the barrel, the mouthpiece, the ligature, and the reed. We'll also be learning how to form your embouchure, or the shape of your mouth, so you can make great sounds on that part of your instrument. The first thing we need to do whenever we're going to play our instrument is to make sure that the case is facing the right way so that your instrument doesn't go flying out when you try to open it. So I have my case behind me, and I'm just going to move it a little bit closer so you can see it. Whenever you're going to get ready to play your instrument, make sure that you set your case on a hard surface. I'm going to use the bookshelf behind me, but you might use the floor or a table, anything where it's going to be sturdy and that you know that your instrument is safe when you open the case. To make sure that the case is facing the right way, we have to check for a few things. On most cases, there's some writing or something that kind of looks like a sticker or some engraving on the top of the case. So that's the part that we want to face the ceiling when we go to open it. The other thing we need to check are the latches. The latches on the case, again, we want when we lift them for them to go up toward the ceiling. So a good rule for most cases is that we want the writing facing the ceiling, and when you set the case on the hard surface, you want the handle to the instrument facing you. And again, you can double check those latches just to make sure that when you pull up on them, they're going to go up toward the ceiling. So now that our case is facing the right way, with the writing facing the ceiling and the latches and handle facing toward you, we know that your instrument is going to be safe when you open that case. So I'm just going to pull up on the bottom of the latches here and then unhook them. I also know that this is the right way because this top part of the case is a little bit smaller. Your case might have zipper instead of latches, and same thing, you can just make sure that that top part of the case is a little bit smaller. So with two hands, I'm going to slowly open the top of the case, and I hold it all the way until I feel it stop moving. If you just throw it open, your whole instrument can tip over and go flying out. We don't want any accidents. So when I go to set up this part of my instrument, the first thing I want to find is my reed. And they often come in little plastic like this. Yours might have a wrapper around it if it's the first time that you're using it. So with two fingers, I'm just going to pull my reed right out of the reed case. And this is just a piece of cane. It's kind of like bamboo, and they make it the right shape for us to make a sound on your instrument. You can set this in your mouth, right on your tongue to soak. Or what I like to do is set it in a little cup of water. If you're in a space at your house maybe that it's a little bit easier to do that. They tend to last a little bit longer when you put them in that cup of water. So I just have a cup here that I'll set mine in. While that's soaking and we need it to soak to be able to play, I'm going to put together my barrel and my mouthpiece. The barrel is this small piece right here, and there's a big end and there's a little end. And my mouthpiece is going to fit into my barrel. My mouthpiece looks like this, and it might have a cap on there like mine does. If it does, you can just take the cap off, and you can set it right back in the case. This metal piece is called the ligature, and that's going to help hold your reed in place once we get it in the perfect spot. So I'm going to take my ligature off and just set it on the table. And in one hand, I have my barrel, and in one hand, I have my mouthpiece. And the small end of the mouthpiece, or the small end of the barrel rather, is where the mouthpiece goes in. And I just use two hands and I gently twist and push until it goes together. Now that this part is together, we have to get the reed lined up perfectly. Now this part takes a little bit of extra practice. So when you're first getting going, take your reed on and then take it off, put it back on and take it off. And the sooner that you get this part, the easier everything is. So my reed at this point should be soaked and ready to go, so I'm going to pull it out of my water. And I have to make sure it's lined up perfectly. So on my reed, I have the front of the reed with this curve, kind of looks like a little smile. And on the back of the reed, it's flat. And many, many reeds have writing, which is another way that I know that it is the back of the reed. On my mouthpiece, I have the front here with this curve again, and the back has this open chamber. The reed needs to cover the chamber in order to vibrate properly to make the sound. So I'm going to take the flat part of my reed, the part with the writing, and I need to cover up that chamber in order for it to vibrate properly. So it's going to look like this, but there are a few things we need to check to make sure it's perfect before we know that we're set and ready to go. So I'm going to take my ligature now that it's in just about the right spot, and I'm always being really careful of the tip of that reed. I never want to press on it or hit it with my ligature because they're so delicate and they can break so easily. So with my ligature, I'm really gently, far away from the tip of that reed, sliding it down to make sure that my ligature goes on so the reed will be held properly. So we have to make sure that the reed is covering the chamber all the way, otherwise we're not going to get the great sound that we want. So to make sure it's lined up the right way, I'm going to show you here. The first thing we need to make sure of is that it's lined up perfectly side to side here. If it's not lined up perfectly, like that, you might see a little bit of a gap or a little space there, and that's how I know it's not perfect. So I'm going to use my thumbs on the sides here to make sure that it's lined up really well side to side, no little spaces in there. Then I have to make sure that it's just the right height as well. So if I look at the height of my reed, I look at the very tip here, this part that we don't want to touch because it's so delicate, and I just want the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest little sliver of the black mouthpiece behind it. And if I flip it around, I can see the tiniest, tiniest little sliver of that reed popping up. So that's how we know it's not too high and it's not too low. Couple more things to check on here. I need to make sure that I can see the whole smile or curve on the front of that mouthpiece. So the ligature needs to be low enough to see that. But remember, there was a smile on the reed too. So if I flip it around, I can see that smile on the back of the reed as well. So if it's lined up properly, side to side, and there's just that tiny sliver of black and tiny bit of reed, and you can see both smiles, you know that your reed is in the right place. And this part takes a little bit of practice, so definitely spend some time doing that. Now I can tighten up the screws on my ligature by turning away from me to make sure that my reed isn't going to move when I play it. It doesn't need to be so tight that your reed isn't going to vibrate, but we don't want it moving around either. So this is what it'll sound like when you make the sound on your reed, your barrel, and your mouthpiece. To make that sound, we have to make sure that your embouchure or the shape of your mouth is in the right position. So I would take just a tiny little bit of my bottom lip and I cover up my bottom teeth. So it kind of looks like you're an old man with no teeth smiling. And then I set my reed on my bottom lip, teeth on top. So again, my lip is touching the reed, but my teeth on the top are touching the black. Your bottom teeth should never touch the reed. So I take that little bit of my lip, put it just a tiny, tiny bit to make a little pillow over those bottom teeth, set my reed on my lip, teeth go on top, and I breathe through my mouth. I close my mouth and then I blow. So notice my chin gets a little bit pointy and you can see my muscles here while I'm blowing. Why don't we try it together? Lip over teeth, reed on your lip, teeth on top. Get ready to breathe through your mouth. Here we go. Great, let's do it again. Now that we've done that part, we can start tapping our tongues or articulating. Echo me, please. Do, do, do. Can you feel your tongue hitting? So now we want your tongue to tap really gently at this top part of the reed here. I'll do it. Listen really carefully. You can hear my tongue clicking, and then you should try the same thing right after I do. Ready? Your turn. Ready? Now we'll make our full sound and try tapping your tongue at the same time. Listen to me first, and then it'll be your turn right after. Do, 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 do. Next. You can make up your own patterns to be tapping your tongue to as well. Thanks for checking in, everybody, and happy practicing.